Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rise and Shine with Morning Moon. My name is Coach Lacy. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and anchor in for the day. It's Tuesday. It is a beautiful day. It's summer. Taking a deep breath, slowing down for a second. Put your feet on the ground, hand on your heart. And just think for a moment about what you have planned, what you want to do for the summer, what's coming up. And just take a moment to think about what would happen if those plans did not go as you'd hoped. Damn. Damn. What happens when you have to pivot? What happens when life shows up? What are you going to do? What are you going to do when chaos ensues? When you feel like you're in between a rock and a hard place and you have no idea where the hell to go? And all you are left with your choice is your choices. Take a deep breath. Just say to yourself, I don't have to cling to this plan. I can pivot and I can pivot in peace. Like a heated basketball game, I can keep holding that ball, shoot my hoop in peace. Man, because that is where we're going today. I have been thinking a lot about what happens when you have to pivot. Been working a lot with some clients lately who are struggling with some big decisions and big choices. And sometimes their plans don't always go as they'd hoped. So, what do you do when your plan falls apart? We're going to talk about that today. First, just take a deep breath and know that everything is going to be okay. Even if it's not, it will be if you hold on and anchor in and make the decision on how you want to show up in the world and how you want to create a generational ripple effect. Do you want to make a big deal out of things and cause a huge chaotic commotion and start screaming when, screaming when the horse steps on your foot and freaking all the kids out and making it to where people don't want to even show up and ride the horse again, as in my experience? Or are you going to suck that up and get outside yourself and figure that there is something better coming and healing will come, right? So what do you do? What do you do when the plan falls apart? Like, what do you do when your plan falls apart? The one that you mapped out, the one that you believe in, the one that you have put your heart and soul and mind, body into, everything into. You gave everything to this. And then it crumbles and it's done. What do you do? What do you do? Mm-mm-mm. I've been there. I have been there more times than I care to count. Oh man. I mean, whether it be programs that I have taken months to create and they have flopped in the launch, or I have built websites that never saw the light of day. I have poured time, energy, prayers, money, anything, energy into ideas that just didn't bloom, just didn't hit, didn't work. I spent years of my life working for other people, making their business my own, trying to help grow the businesses, and I'm talking multiple businesses, only in the end to find that I was just expendable or not, not as important as I thought I was. And my plans were dissolved. I've been let go for standing my ground and having a belief system that didn't align with other people, and I've been let go from a career for that, and I've I have had to pivot time and time again. I've lost my house. We've lost our house, and we had to pivot and scramble really quickly. We've poured a lot of time and energy into events and hopes and dreams that just never bloomed, never occurred. And it stings and it hurts and it aches and it's a hard pill to swallow because and if you and you're listening and you have had these moments, we were committed. We were all in. We were all in. We were faithful. We were clear. And it still didn't work. It still didn't quite hit, right? So what do you do in that moment when things just don't work out the way that you thought that they should? Well, the thing that I've learned through every pivot that I have had to make, every redirect, every hard look in the mirror, every moment of disappointment, every, half in, half out, um, every jumping off the cliff full in, everything that I have done, I have had to take a good hard look at things and I came to realize that my life is not my own. There's something bigger than me. It's not about me, and the same goes for you. Your life is not your own and it's not about you. It's not all about you. You're not here for you. We are all here. We are created on purpose for a purpose. And sometimes the plan falling apart and things not going the way as planned and life happening and chaos ensuing, that is not only is there lessons to be learned and growth to be had in those moments, but sometimes it's protection. Sometimes the thing that we are trying to force isn't actually the blessing, it's a barrier to the blessing. And we can't always see it that way because we don't see time. We can't see what's going to happen in the future or, what the outcome will be. Life is a series of choices. And depending on what we choose, we will have a different outcome, but pivoting and making a change is not failure. And listening to that voice and listening to what God is telling you for the calling on your life, that's faith. That is having a faith in the divine design and the calling on your life for something bigger than yourself. There's a ripple effect. Once you step into that and you say, I'm going to have faith in fate and I am going to live this life for something bigger than myself. It's not my own. I'm here to create a legacy. And that is maturity. That is saying, okay, God, I hear you. I'm listening. It's maybe not what I was wanting or what I was expecting, but I'm open, right? When we lost our house, um, it was devastating and we had to quickly act and move into a smaller place for more money and it was horrible. But in the end, it ended up being a good um thing for us because I ended up getting a job next door that helped carry us through the pandemic when I had lost my job. So there are different plans, and it opened my eyes to a different world and it made connections with new people and friends that I would have never had otherwise, and opened up doors that would have never been opened otherwise. And that was a part of the plan, right? And, when I lost my job, I was devastated. Every time I have quit a job, I have only lost my job one time. I was let go during the pandemic, um, from my job as a medical assistant and office manager at a naturopathic clinic and was devastated because that was my career that I had put, I'd been in the industry since 2008. I had put my, entire youth I started when I was 22. I had put my whole stock into this career, and the thought of not working in medicine devastated me. Devastated me. And I did make a return to medicine, and then I made the choice in my own pivot and listening. I had to listen to the signs. And in that moment, I was more in tune with that. And in that listening, I made the choice to then quit a career I loved just because I was listening. And that was a pivot, and that was a scary pivot because I had no idea whether or not I was actually going to make that work or whether or not that would actually be fruitful for my family. And it did turn out to be fruitful, but I had no idea. I just pivoted, right? And things happen and we have to pivot. And sometimes bad things happen, like the people that I have loved that I've lost. And um, those pivots have been, they're not always easy. And, like when we lost my brother, my dad had to make a pivot and moved home to Wyoming. And that hasn't been easy for any of our family. Um, but that was his pivot, and so you have to make um your choices. You have to make decisions when you are faced with a choice, not only from your head, and not just from your heart, but with both. You have to really weigh the consequences, but then listen to what God is telling you and what the calling for your life is, and you have to realize that when you're questioning everything, you can't make it all about you. It's not your timeline, your goals, your expectations. When I have had, you know, many things happen, I was making it about me. That's what I realized is it was my timeline, my goals, my expectations, me, 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 me. And there was just it was hitting a wall. And I realized this life is not my own. And, recognize that your life is not just yours either. We are here to carry something. We are here to carry on legacy. We are here to deliver a message. We are here to create a ripple effect and change lives and perspectives through the way that we live. It's a mission. When you anchor in and you stop white knuckling it, God starts showing up and shows you what's real and reroutes you. And if you're paying attention, if you're not paying attention, then, well, you're going to miss the signs. But sometimes roadblocks are just a detour, it's a holy plan. And I'm not saying I don't like to plan my life out. I have a 5-year, but I love structure. I need vision. You should see my notebooks, I'm full of plans. But I have learned to hold the plan with open hands, and the moment that I am holding on to it too tight, I literally cut off the circulation. And so if you're feeling like you're stuck or frustrated right now, um, ask yourself if you're forcing something that's just not in alignment anymore, or if you are afraid of pivoting or afraid of change. Are you moving from pressure? Are you being forced to push, or are you being pulled? Are you being pulled to the life um, of of purpose, or are you being pushed? You have to feel that. And if you pivot and your plans change, that's not you giving in or being weak or being a loser or whatever. Um, and you can't let the battlefield of your mind get to you and entertain those types of thoughts because they're not true. And if you give the devil his due, he'll have a heyday with you. And so don't, right? Like just don't. It really depends on how you want to show up in the world. And um you have to pivot, and like look at plants. When plants are growing, they go towards the light. And so trees and plants will naturally pivot their leaves towards the light. And we have to do the same thing that when we're anchoring in. And that's where the foundations matter. We're pivoting, right? Like sometimes we are going to be in the darkness, but we're always trying to reach towards the light. So if you are stuck and you're like, what the fuck do? I don't have any choices or blah, 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 you always have a choice. There's always choices to be made. And there's always some that if you are in chaos, the things that you can control, once again, are your controllables. If you watch me regularly, I hammer in on the controllables. These are your circle of life foundations. Water, real food, movement, motion changes emotion. Move your body. Prayer, rest, being in your body, being with God, being present, turning down the noise so you can actually hear what input are you giving yourself. These are our controllables, the things that we can control. Anchor into your daily wellness foundations so that when everything feels out of control, those are what you control. You know. Your nervous system is going to tell you when something's off, so you need to learn to listen. Get in tune with your body. Learn to listen to your body. People who are chronically ill are often very out of tune with their body, and that's why a lot of illness shows up because they didn't learn to listen long ago to the signals their body was sending them when it was on fire. These signals, pain is just a fire alarm for the body's system because it's like your house is on fire. And so the pain is a fire alarm and saying, hey, there's something going on here. We need to address this. But if you just spend your time throwing, pills at it or not addressing the root cause, you're never going to actually fix what's happening. You're never actually going to fix the problem. It's just going to be so you need to listen, and your spirit is going to nudge you when it's time to shift if you're not numbing out. I'm very guilty of numbing out. I'm very, very guilty of numbing out with, vape pen, marijuana, all the things. And when I get to that point, I have to recognize and pull the plug um, and pivot, and we have to pivot. So if you feel like the pivot is coming or the pivot is here and you're faced with some choices, don't panic. Don't panic. Don't go into panic mode and, start freaking out. Just pause. Take a deep breath. Listen. Listen to your body. Listen to your spirit and recenter. Especially if you're building something. Look, being a business owner, being a professional, being somebody who has a dream, that's not easy. And it can be a struggle to meet market expectations. It can be a struggle to keep up with social media. It can be a struggle with all the things. Uh, eh, you know, but if you are a visionary, if you are a creator, you're a leader, you're going to have moments where the strategy just goes stagnant and it just feels like it stops working. It's just the way it is. And that is where you want to give up, but that is actually a sign to go harder. That's the divine tap on the shoulder. That's the moment you level up. Not because you failed, but it's because you've outgrown that plan. You've outgrown that path. So if that's where you're at, you know, you're not broken. You're not crazy. You're not behind, you know. You're just being called to go deeper and you're being called to go to that next level. So you need to anchor in, get honest with yourself, ask for clarity, and then pivot with peace. And not panic. Make a plan and pivot. Don't panic. What good will panic do you? It doesn't do you any good to go into the battlefield of the mind and start panicking. Where you end up might not even touch where you wanted to go, and it might open up doors that you never even would have thought of. So if you are in that space, that gap between of what was and what's next, I would love to walk with you. That's exactly what I do. I help people get honest, reset the foundation, and build from truth. And drop that ego. Sacrifice the ego, not from pressure, not from a place of desperation, but from a place of peace. You don't have to force feeling okay. You don't have to force everything. You don't have to pretend like you have all the answers, and you don't have to fake it. And you don't have to white knuckle your way through it. You just have to stay anchored in and rooted and keep showing up, and listen and listen. That's how you pivot and you stay planted. So anchor in, control your controllables, and listen. And if you're struggling today and you need some help learning to listen and finding the truth and getting rooted and grounded, send me a message on social media. Send me a message here, wherever you found me. Or you can also go to my website, www.lacyjwatson.com, and fill out an application to work with me. I would love to walk with you. I would love to help you through the darkness and help get you rooted back, anchored into truth. We don't have to do this alone. We can do this as a community. You could always show up in the group Rise and Shine with Morning Moon on Facebook. That is a free community that you can show up and get anchored in and rooted in with from a place that really matters. So rise and shine. It is summer. We're really quickly coming up on summer. The kiddos are graduating. We are here. It's barbecue time. It's hot girl summer. So if you're ready to get into hot girl summer, just anchor in. Set those wellness foundations, guys. And I hope that you have a beautiful Tuesday, and I will see you tomorrow. Ciao.